You have Ripple and Mastercard. You have what looks to be the tokenized HBAR ETF on Hedera mainnet. You have Swift saying that there's a last mile problem at Chainlink SmartCon, and all of this amazing news. And today is one of those days where, burnout just strikes. I mean, we've seen so much adoption in this blockchain and distributed ledger and crypto space over the past couple of years. I mean, I literally just talked about it yesterday. I got to ask myself, like, what gives? You know, it seems like nothing is happening. Nothing is going to move the needle whatsoever. And it gets really frustrating being in this space on a day in, day out basis. If you guys like this content, please like and subscribe. We're going to be diving into, I guess, some of the stuff going on across crypto today. It's not all doom and gloom. We have Crypto Airy sharing. This is from Chainlink SmartCon. This is Tom Zaschach. I'm going to mispronounce his last name. Chief Innovation Officer at Swift. I caught this today and I thought it was pretty interesting, and I was going to share it with you guys, talking about some very similar things that we've heard across the board from very familiar entities.
75% of all payments on the Swift network, 75%, reach the destination recipient bank within 10 minutes. Most of those within seconds. We're not doing any research to speed up moving something at the sound of light, because that's not possible. 75%. Now, that tells me two things. One is we're not done, and there's still improvements that need to be done. And we're actively working with our community and the banks to address the 25%, to address the friction that's out there, because the 25% is not okay. So even though we talk a lot about tokenization in the future and where this is going, and I don't think anybody could be more excited about the Swift Ledger announcement than myself, but we have a day-to-day network to run that moves trillions of dollars every day that people rely on. This is an either or. This is not a pivot to the future. This is us working on, one, removing the friction, and two, it tells me we have a last mile problem. We're connected with 150 currencies in over 200 countries. In some cases, we have a last mile problem, and we need to work with that ecosystem, with that jurisdiction, with those banks, with those financial institutions to address that. And we're fully committed to doing that.
So for those of you guys that might have missed the announcement, Swift announced at their Sibos event just a couple of weeks ago that they are building or integrating blockchain into their infrastructure. So, yeah. I think it's interesting. You know, I know a lot of people are going to say, well, that's XRPL. That's not XRPL. Now, that is not to say that Swift eventually doesn't, you know, the entities within Swift, just like the entities everywhere, don't end up using different networks. I mean, we literally just saw DTCC at Chainlink SmartCon yesterday saying ledger of ledgers. I mean, there's going to be multiple networks involved in the way that all of this shakes out, kind of an upgrade to the traditional system. And as Tom from Swift mentions, they move trillions in assets. Well, Swift doesn't historically deal in payments. They deal in the payments messaging. There's obviously the Nostro and Vostro on the front and back end of these institutions, transactions, the promissory accounts, and all of this other stuff. However, that being said, you can tell that Swift thought enough about, I mean, you go back far enough, Swift thought enough about Ripple Tech to integrate Swift GPI, and that basically essentially is Swift's version of Ripple's old Ripple X Current. And now, you know, just kind of going full-blown blockchain, just like everybody else. Swift deeply embedded with the Chainlink or the Chainlink ecosystem. Chainlink's obviously not a blockchain, but it is a protocol. They have lots of different products within Chainlink, and it'll be interesting to watch how it shakes out. So I found this very interesting, and you've got HBAR Tata absolutely destroying it again, as usual. This is the Archax Canary. It looks like Archax, who we should all know across, you know, all of these networks, integrations with Hedera and XRPL and Algorand and XTC and all these networks. But Archax looks like they have tokenized the Canary HBAR ETF directly onto Hedera. Tata DM'd me this earlier today. He thinks this might be the first time a network's native token ETF has been tokenized on the same network, marking a major step for on-chain funds. Start the flywheel effect. Is this a world's first? I don't know if he's gotten a response yet on this. All the benefits of tokenization he goes into here, but still pretty crazy. And some of the stats around the HBAR ETF are pretty big too. I wanted to bring this up today because I saw it, and Nick Bougalis, obviously one of the biggest or bigger kind of ecosystem devs on the XRPL, is now the CTO at the Algorand Foundation. This is just like, I think within the past month, announced and put out a post here. The first post-quantum transaction using Falcon signatures has hit the Algorand mainnet. Falcon signatures are 10 times longer than ED 25519 signatures, but using Algorand's logic signatures, we can amortize that cost. Here's the blog technical brief: quantum resistant transactions on Algorand with Falcon signatures. Algorand has executed the first post quantum transaction on mainnet using NIST selected Falcon signatures. I think this is National Institute of Standards and Technology, but I could be wrong there. You guys correct me. This transaction demonstrates that quantum resistant signatures can now protect real digital assets on a live public blockchain. Today, you get into what, the overview of Falcon. You get kind of down into the weeds of all the tech aspects of this as well, but basically says this marks a shift from theory to practice and post-quantum proofing now on Algorand. And I'll give a shout out to where I saw this from, which was Alex at Algerstmen, alexfrance.algo. This should be all over the news. Algorand is the first blockchain ever. I did not vet that, but I know that he's saying this Algorand is the first blockchain ever to execute a post-quantum transaction on mainnet. The cryptographic transition is happening, and Algorand has some of the best post-quantum experts in the world. Also saw Constellation DAG bridge to Inc. unleashed by Kraken, built on the super chain. So there's a bridge now with it to the Kraken ecosystem. What else is there? And then I'll kind of get into the topic of what I have this video titled for. Ripple Swell collaborating with Mastercard, WebBank, and Gemini to introduce Ripple USD settlement on the XRP Ledger for fiat credit card payments, starting with the Gemini XRP credit card. This is pretty awesome, very big. The initiative setting a new benchmark for institutional efficiency, enabling faster, compliant, and more transparent settlement with traditional finance. You can read through this entire release here on ripple.com. But this should go to show, I think a lot of the concern around Ripple USD was the issuance or just the amount of issuance on Ethereum. Now you're seeing that there's a direct correlation to the XRP Ledger with settlement happening on the XRP Ledger. The initiative is designed to enable Ripple USD operating on the XRP Ledger to facilitate blockchain-based settlement processes between Mastercard and WebBank, the issuer of the Gemini credit card. You have President and CEO of WebBank making a statement. You've got, I'll go through Monica's here. So President Ripple. Financial institutions around the world are increasingly recognizing the value of blockchain and stablecoins and modernizing how money moves. This partnership is a meaningful step towards showcasing how regulated digital assets like Ripple USD can enhance settlement, paving the way for other card programs to adopt stablecoins for faster, compliant payments. The XRP Ledger will serve as the backbone for these and other institutional use cases that are transforming how financial services operate. Sidebar: at Ripple's Swell event, we had Canary Capital's CEO talking about, if you were to describe Bitcoin, I think it's pretty cut and dry. Most people describe Bitcoin as digital gold, but he was going over, if you were to describe the XRPL, how would you describe it? And I think he just kind of went down the path of, upgrading the financial architecture type aspects. Similar stuff that we've talked about, just the benefits of using a network like XRPL for payments and settlements. Then you can kind of get into the weeds with what are these other networks good for? What, you can do a lot of the same things on a lot of these networks. If you look at like Hedera, for example, like if I were to do this, and obviously take some of mine with a grain of salt, like we have media relationships within some of these ecosystems, but I think that the architecture of a network like Hedera seems to me to make sense and be scalable. And the reason I bring that up is like Hedera essentially has this microservice style architecture where if you want to deal with consensus, you deal with consensus. If you want to deal with a token service, you deal with the token service, or smart contracts as a service, or there's an AI studio, and there's a digital document, like a file service. There's all this stuff is kind of its own things. I think if I look at a network like Ethereum, I think one of the pain points is it's like all or nothing in a lot of regards. And I think that's just not the way that things are going to scale. If you look at a network like Constellation, for example, I think that's the ability to bring in traditional business logic and build blockchain or Web3 logic on top of it is interesting through like their metagraphs. And if you look at a network like XDC, so I'm just going through, I guess, Genfinity's client ecosystems here, which wasn't intentional, but I did an interview this morning. We'll be doing another one within the XDC ecosystem tomorrow. One I did today was between XDC and iTrust, so not financial advice, but that's a good interview. It tells kind of through the context of what's happening in retirement funds, kind of throughout the digital asset landscape. But tomorrow we're going to be doing just a deep dive into trade finance. And I know even just looking at some of the questions and like layout of like what I'm going to kind of go through, and belief, like not just kind of a script, but actual belief, like that from a lot of individuals within the XDC ecosystem, is that the trade finance landscape is like one of the biggest opportunities in blockchain. And they fervently believe that. I mean, they've been building towards it for years. So when you look at it, all of these different blockchains, I think we're beyond kind of this generic blockchain for the sake of blockchain landscape. There appear to be leaders in certain areas, and that's why I just believe that you're going to have a multi-chain kind of future, because not everybody can do everything. Not one ledger or blockchain can do absolutely everything that's going to get upgraded. The stuff's all going to interoperate in some way, shape, or form, and you're going to have kind of these specialty networks that kind of just do a lot of this stuff. This is my belief, obviously, which brings me back to why is nothing happening. And this space does get pretty frustrating sometimes, but I think part of the reason why we have such a problem in crypto and blockchain is I do not believe we're in this utility cycle yet that everybody keeps telling you that you're in every 6 months when it's trendy to talk about. If we were, we wouldn't have things like, all of the meme coins. Nothing against meme coins, but I would just say all these meme coins and everything else, basically, it makes it much harder when there's 20 million coins for, the 40 or 50 ecosystems that are actually bringing RWAs on chain and doing all of this stuff legitimately, or trying to gain traction. So, and plus you just have a crazy amount of manipulation still in crypto. And it is frustrating. I mean, I've been in this space since late 2016, but more into this space in 2017, and then more into actually trying to do research and stuff in 2019, 2020 and beyond. And it does get to you, because I've said this so many times, like there are more announcements on a daily basis now. I mean, I didn't even look at the news for you guys today, but I'm sure I could go through some of it. But I don't want to waste your guys' time, because I get really excited about some of the news some days, but then there's other days where I'm just like, I'm so sick of reading bullish announcements and nothing happening. Bitcoin retail investor at max desperation says Bitwise CEO, but crypto winter is not coming. This is another narrative that I've heard. Maybe it's correct, and I hope it's correct, but until it's correct, it isn't, because we've had these cycles in crypto. But I hope it is that we're out of this 4-year cycle mode. And I think people just blatantly saying that until I don't know. It's just like, okay, crypto winter is not coming. Okay. But you're basing that on like whatever. And I hope it's not coming. Obviously, I hope that the 4-year cycle thing's broken. It seems like it has to at some point, because like I said, like on a daily basis, there are so many announcements. Like just to have that Mastercard announcement that Ripple just announced today, 4 years ago in crypto, or 5 years ago in crypto, would have been like driving an entire market of all of crypto for like a month, 2 months. And now we see this on a daily basis. It's almost like we're spoiled with news, but absolutely nothing is going to move the needle. So the question is, when are the manipulators gonna let this market do what it should do? There's still such a small amount of us here in crypto. I actually, you see stats that like 10 or 15% of US citizens are in crypto. I don't think that's accurate. It may be accurate from hey, I bought Dogecoin here one time 4 years or 3 years ago stance, but it's not accurate from an active user base. I care much more about, like, even if you were to give the stat of like 50% of people in the US are in crypto, okay, that's great. But at the end of the day, what's the active user base of crypto? How many people are actually using crypto every single day? I think that that's a stat that is not even close to being at 10 or 15% of the United States population yet. If I had to guess, what is the active user base of the United States as far as crypto is concerned, that actually uses crypto in some way, shape, or form every day? Maybe 2%, maybe. Which shows you how early we really are. I mean, a lot of this 99.9% of crypto utility in 2025 is still speculation. Nobody is using crypto in a way that is changing their everyday life. Most people, I would say 99% of people aren't. And we still have the primary use case of crypto as kind of being this merry-go-round of gambling applications. Now, do I believe that that's going to change 1,000%? I mean, it's the same problem that we see with actual builders not being able to come up with revenue models outside of a token raise or a capital raise, which is, that at some point has to change, right? Because people get tired of the recycled liquidity. People get tired and almost like dehydrated of, oh, here's another thing that we're supposed to buy. It's like, well, I just bought the old thing, and that old thing is not doing anything, and I have it parked and I can't do anything with it. So I think we're at kind of an interesting inflection point where you see all of these major entities coming into crypto, and yet the use case of crypto per all these major entities is just more speculation. Like, I do think we're moving beyond that, probably slowly, and the use cases from a real world standpoint are, go back to square one for like, what are blockchains good at? Transparency, auditability, probably some really non-sexy, non-super retail-y use cases, at least right now. I mean, I've interviewed a lot of these people over the past year, and I keep hearing the same thing. I keep hearing product track and trace and supply chain, or kind of the green economy stuff and the carbon credits, kind of all the updates from the ESG standpoint that are happening throughout the globe. Digital documentation. I think that there's a huge use case from an artificial intelligence data provenance standpoint. My wife's going to make fun of me because she hates when I say the word provenance, whatever. She thinks it's super like high, raise your like highbrow type comment or whatever, or word. But anyways, I mean, I think when we have to think about nothing's happening a lot, we've created almost a flywheel of our own problems in crypto too. And yeah, there's a ton of real world adoption, but we're part of the problem of that just pure, almost like attention economy speculation that is like so hypey, where what's the next thumbnail to click on for a YouTube video? What's the next tweet that we can stretch the truth to get clicks and retweets? What's the next token that is going to try to siphon out liquidity from projects that are trying to build utility? What's the next launch? What's the next thing? What's the next piece of news? And at the end of the day, whenever we step back and people start actually continuing to build real things that change the way that we live our daily lives, that's when we will truly see this utility bull market happen, because people will be using crypto without having to think about using crypto. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I will talk to you when I talk to you. Thanks. Bye.